All right, well, gosh, here we are into another month into the this interesting time we have going on. I want to welcome you to, if you're new here, this is a local meetup, except this is a non-local meetup. So it's kind of like the space-time continuum, I think. It's non-local. We're in subspace here. But anyway, normally we just do this for our chapter. So I want to do some local things, and I'm going to have Dave, you talk about that, and Megan, the real estate broker that basically she's my right-hand person when it comes to anything that I need to partner with with a professional, real estate professional. So that is awesome. And then I just want to get into what's really happening in the market. What are the people seeing? You know, we've got, what are investors seeing? What are realtors seeing? What are mortgage lenders seeing? If you're active in the mortgage business, I would really like to hear from you tonight as well. And then what's happening in the note space? You know, Abby can talk to that. He's a real estate broker. And Dan, if you want to contribute, just for you guys being, you know, one of the larger buyers, I know things are really quite interesting. And me, I'm just kind of in the middle, little mom and pop, kind of doing a little bit of everything, mostly just sort of working things out that just feel like, it just feels like things are just stuck in tar. You know what I mean? It just feels like things are going slow, but kind of fast at the same time. And it just feels like getting traction on things is just, like I said, walking through tar, sort of. But in a way, it's sort of more peaceful than ever, because there's, in some ways, yeah, you just can't do a whole lot. So it simplifies life quite a bit. I do have my oldest daughter came home for now. Now, this Axel telling me Abby's having technical difficulties, and okay, we're good. All right, Abby, hopefully we'll get that handled sooner than later. But anyway, so owner financing and notes, you know, my personal strategy, we can talk that a little bit later, but just for real quick, because I can. Hey, Megan, can you come on? I just want to, do you have something you can screen share? I know you have some data. I know life has been really weird and you've got a lot of stuff going on, but
yeah, hold on. Really, my dog is scratching on my door.
What's scratching? Your dog scratching or your kid?
My dog.
Or dog.
Dogs, kids are running the same.
The kid's scratching at the door. Don't.
My biggest work obstacles is barking dogs, scratching dogs, child interrupting me. I love them all, yeah. But I sure miss my office.
Right. I mean, if you're not home alone, you got people around.
No, and I'm used to working every day, being in my office every day. This is the most time I have spent at home and can't even remember. So my house is clean. I realized I can cook, I can sew, but I want to get back to business as normal.
Well, I'm disappointed that I don't see you in an apron or something.
Well, you know, if this doesn't end soon, it might happen. No. So if you want to, let's see if I can screen share myself here.
If you know, probably I have to do it, and I probably, this is why I can't, I try not to do it by myself, because I'm not very good at it.
And I can kind of just kind of tell you from my side as a real estate broker what is going on, and then I can give you guys my blog site that has the most recent Carson City and Reno market reports, and then there's also just a few recent articles and stuff that I've posted that have been helpful. But what you said about feeling like you're stuck in tar, I mean, that's what describes it right now. Yeah, exactly. There's still people listing, but we don't have buyers. We don't have a lot of people looking at property. The prices haven't changed very much. We're seeing more price reduction, but the market reports aren't changing much yet. We're still too early in the game because there's still a lot of things that were in escrow prior to this that are closing.
Right.
Appraisals haven't caught up yet with, if there, you know, if there are significant changes, they're still using the last 90 days information in appraisals. So it would take a little bit for that to catch up if there are changes. And I know that there's a lot of information out there, you know, trying to promote and talk about that we went into this with a solid market, so our real estate's not going to change. Maybe it won't crash, but there's got to be changes. There's too many people that are losing jobs and markets and their ability to purchase, and it's going to take a little time or for this, the results of this to show, and on the flip side, for the people that were heavily affected by this to get their lives back in order. So, and the fact that we're seeing a lot of price reductions, even though those properties haven't closed yet, tells me that we are going to see some changes in the market. So
yeah, it's interesting. You know, Sunday I was walking down, you know, down at the end of River Road. You got that little disc golf course. You know what I'm talking about? By the river down there. I'm going there walking the dog, and I run into Sherry Cook and her husband and Hank, you know. So I played some golf disc. Of course, I stayed 6 inches away from everyone. Don't worry.
6 inches? That's it? You're not.
Yeah.
You're breaking the rule.
But anyway, you know, it was funny because she goes, "Oh my gosh, I'm so busy. Who's not busy right now?" I go, "Really?" All the refis, all the people who still have their stable things, and she's just can't even keep up with. There's only the 1 or 2 purchases and everything she's doing, but the refis are really keeping her busy for the moment. And then I was reading another, and anyone else, my co-hosts, I'm gonna make you guys co-hosts and stuff too, but you know, basically last time around, you know, people are going, okay, we had the crash in 2008, but it took till 2010 to really see super good deals for long-term holds and things like that. So in the meantime, so anyway, you're just seeing, you don't even know. So sum it up for me. Hi, Abby.
Hi.
It's just, it's so early in all this that it's hard to know.
Right. Make co-host. Yeah, so the you know, the things that you know, you and I are working on that I'm just thinking are plausible, because a lot of the things that let's say there's a couple, 3 wholesalers and a couple of things I get myself, but wholesalers bringing me deals and they're like shocked when I go, nope. That price point doesn't work anymore. I'll do that. I'll do it on terms all day long, because if I get good terms, either with lease option or owner carry, then I don't have to care about the swings in the market. If I know that that house or that property, if my plan A doesn't work, I want to make sure I've got plan B, plan C, more than one exit strategy, or it can pay for itself. That's the job of a house, is to pay for itself if I have to hold it long term. So I'm basically very terms biased right now, unless I just can get a killer deal on something that, yeah, I really want this, and it has multiple ways of serving, creating value in my personal world. So what else are you seeing? Any points on that? Because you've sent me a list of expireds, things that are going long, stale listings.
Which there's probably a lot more than the last time I sent it to you.
Yeah.
Now.
Right.
And I see a lot of people that are in just wait and see mode. that
Right.
they just don't want to do anything until the at least quarantine passes and market starts, or the world, not just the market, starts to move again.
Right.
And I have a lot of owners contacting me that, like, what do you think, what's going to happen? And I just, my advice is don't panic, don't run out and try and sell, don't run out right now and try and buy, because I know something I learned from the last market was that there were a lot of people that if they would have just held tight, or found some alternatives, like maybe some of the things you're talking about, they wouldn't have had such a financial crash and crisis. It's like, just stay calm, wait a little bit, there's options out there, take a deep breath.
Right.
There's fixes, there's things that they can do, there's
Right.
terms, there's
You had several, you have a pretty heavy background in property management, and you still have kind of some connections. How do you have any sense whatsoever, like some of these landlords that don't have paying tenants, are
I
they
sense
are
that
they
I am
getting
so
like, I
thankful.
want out of this, I want out of this,
I
or are they fine?
there's some panic there. I know that well, I'd love to have that steady income right now from owning the property management company, but I would much rather not be dealing with the issues
Oh my gosh.
that are
Right.
happening right now, because a lot of the tenants see the governor's directives and they think they don't have to pay rent. They don't, they're getting a free month. They don't understand that it's basically delaying their payments. And I know that there's a lot of homeowners that not of, when I sold the company, there was about 160 properties, and I would say 10% of those owners had to have that monthly rent to pay the mortgage on their property. They didn't have any kind of savings or any real backup plan. And honestly, those people
Right.
shouldn't be in property management because it's bound to fall
Landlords,
apart. And so those people are the ones that are really being hurt or having a problem right now. And I know there's a lot of,
have you reached out to them, just out of curiosity? We sort of talked about that a month ago.
yeah, some of them that I know and have kind of talked to them about options, and most of them are in the same wait and see situation. And fortunately, a lot of those did get paid. And I talked to a lot of them about checking with their lenders about forbearance, but there's some issues with forbearance also because, yes, some banks are adding it on to the end of a loan or setting up payments, but there's a lot of banks that they have to give, I think, at least 3 months of forbearance, or can give 3 months. But at the end of the 3 months, there's nothing that says, unless they've given an agreement otherwise, that those 3 months aren't due immediately. And so, if the homeowners that their rent didn't get paid this month and they think they might get it next month, yeah, that's great to seek the forbearance, but people really need to be careful with the forbearance, because if you can't pay it monthly at the end of that 3 months, how the heck are you going to have the money when it is due and payable? And so what's that? Oh, I thought somebody was saying something about it, but just having talked to a lender that I like to use quite a bit about the forbearance. And you also have to be careful for your own credit situation. If you're trying to do something in the future, not to during the forbearance, they can't do anything, but that doesn't mean at the end.
Yeah, unless you really have to. It's like, eek, I don't want to mess with my financing. So unless I'm just, unless people are destitute or whatever. And then just from what I'm dealing with, with borrowers, I guess where I'm feeling it the most is, well, dang it, one rehab that I've been caught in a web in forever. And it's a bad time to try to get, that finished up on the market across country. But for me, just like I've had actually better than I expected people paying their mortgage, or they would say, they call me and say, hey, can we put this on hold? I said, do you have the money today for April? And if you do, please pay. And if something happens, you guys both lose your jobs in April, we'll talk about May, June, whatever like that. But the people that are getting their stimulus checks and not passing them along, when things open back up, I'm going to be less, yeah, like I'd always like to work with people, but the people that have, it seems like it's pretty much, yeah, we're working the system. We're just getting out of our rent and our mortgage and whatever we can.
And I could have told you with all our tenants which ones were going to show up and say, I don't know, rent. I mean, we knew they're the ones that give us grief already, and it's hard to work with those.
Right. But so just to finish up this segment, and then I want to bring in Dave, local here. So we're working ostensibly when I get myself organized enough. It's kind of been hit and miss for me on stuff, but I have been, calling and sending out letters to, well, we did a seller carry list. That's for one thing. You pulled something for me. It didn't tend the data, things that were, it was listed as, I'm not sure what you pulled it at from. Was it out of the MLS or out of the title company?
I pulled that out of the MLS.
Yeah, the MLS. So like out of, I think it was 20 or 25 that were the closings were listed as alternative or something like that. Most of them were like USDA or some just sort of alternate lender instead of Bank of the West or something. There was only one owner carry and one private finance guy who made an origination, because I would take, just so anyone who's interested what I'm thinking of, it's like, okay, get MLS data. How did they close? You can also, I'm going to try Property Radar also.
That's what I was thinking, but I
lists compare to List Source and things like that. But
and I think that I narrowed down the data knowing that now. I didn't realize that it pulled in like the USDA and things like that when it was like other is what it's classified as.
Right.
So I can probably narrow that down more.
Yeah,
but
it'll be interesting just to work with the different things and see which comes to be, the most accurate sort of data. But then I would take that and then I would go to Netter Online. And if you guys know that site, I can, all the assessors data in every county, you can find it there. And then I would just look at the property record to see the story of it. I'd go, okay, transferred title, who was the lender? Was this an assignment? Was this a seller carry? Was this an origination from a third party that was just a regular guy? Things like that. So I just pulled up the deeds of trust and watched that. So the other things are the expireds when I get, the people that are sitting out on the market, and then just having another gal work with me on just, pulling some leads from Zillow and just going after more lease options. So to me, if I'm buying a note, I'd really be more comfortable with a partial because it increases my safety. So that's kind of good. If I buy a note or a property, I want it to be on terms, right? Either good terms will go a long way. And last Saturday on our call, I don't know if for those who weren't there, I mean, here's a guy that could buy a property 10% down and 0% financing. So that is like getting the property half price. So if you can give someone their price and just get 0% financing, even if it's for 5 years, it goes a long way. So anyway, so that's personally kind of where I'm orienting toward, plus just trying to clean up the messes that I've had in the portfolio in the last couple of years and things like that. So anyway, hey, Dave Kurtzman, you're up in South Lake Tahoe. What are you seeing? Yeah, I mean, you're right there in Tourism Central, the bloodbath, which is probably similar numbers to Las Vegas, I would imagine. So what's happening with that guy on the multifamily note? You were very quick to give him a forbearance or some sort of loan mod there. Has there been any more in your personal portfolio relating to this fallout?
Not so far. And
Not
the
yet.
good thing about that is he approached me about buying another building. So now I've turned my payer into a customer.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, what's really interesting about this whole thing, and I realized it yesterday when I took a walk, is the similarity between this and 9/11. Because if you look up at the sky, you see nothing. I'm in a flight path, and there would be private planes, helicopters, and the only thing in the sky now over Tahoe is fighter jets that are coming out of Fallon, and they do high altitude touch and goes and so on. And otherwise, the sky's clear. And the last time that ever happened was 9/11. And
Wow.
you begin to realize things kind of, it's kind of creepy in a certain way.
Yeah.
But what's going on in a resort town is there are still people coming up, they're on vacation. Supposedly the county can fine them $1,000 for showing up, but the sheriff says he won't. The sheriff says he won't do it. So you have all of that typical political garbage, but some of the locals are getting pretty upset with some of the tourists that are showing up. The Forest Service has closed the beaches, trying to get rid of attractions. And as far as the town is concerned, I have no idea what the current unemployment rate is. As you say, it's probably similar to Vegas. But a guy who owns 5 or 6 motels that are permanent rentals, which are very common in this town, he's running about a 35%, sorry, I'm not going to pay attitude. And
Really?
the guy that bought my building, he's got 70 units in town, and he said he had 10% just walk away, and then another 10% that aren't paying. And he's actually part with his brother owner of 2,000 units in Texas, and he said they're running at about a 12% non-pay rate right now, but they don't know what the next month will bring.
Right.
As far as the real estate business is somewhat dead, because if it isn't a vacant house, nobody's going to show it. I think, based on the rules, advisories, et cetera. So.
And I just want to interject on my website. I put up Nevada's
what's your
advisories
website?
and rules. It's bynevada.com and then /blog, like BUY, Nevada spelled out. But just while he's talking about the directives, if anybody's curious about how they changed or what they put up, it's on there. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But thought that.
One question I have is, what lenders or are they allowing drive-by and desktop appraisals right now?
Yes.
Who's that?
Sam.
Oh, Sam. Oh, I've never seen what you look like. Hi.
And will FHA do that?
Yep.
And do they require any kind of interior inspection?
It's on a case-by-case basis, but they're being very relaxed about it, and they are allowing exterior-only appraisals. They're even allowing just desktop appraisals. Like you mentioned, the vacant houses, a lot of the inventory right now is vacant homes because a lot of people have kind of pulled back from what I've seen on their listings. So yeah, I haven't seen any slowdown as far as appraisals or anything. All my houses I had going into the COVID situation, I had 5 houses listed and I have 1 left at this point.
But they were all vacant houses so buyers could look at them.
Yep.
Yeah, because I've got a friend out in Silver Springs, and she's going to move the tenants out so that she can sell her house.
Yeah. Yep. That's I was just on a call with someone that, yeah, we feel like sellers who have tenants are going to start reducing their prices and getting nervous and just either evicting their tenants to sell or selling to investors that are willing to buy it sight unseen.
I think one of the things that's going to come out of this is the growth in virtual tours. You know,
Yeah.
all the technology is there to do it, and they're pretty spectacular. You know, it's a kind of a backup way to show a property.
I think this is Abby Shemish here of Amerinote, David. I think that a lot of services and industries are going to follow suit in what you just described.
We're in the wrong business. Get a camera.
Yeah,
Well,
my photographer's already doing it. It's a $200 camera. He just does the walkthrough, and then it's on the listing. You could just walk through the property on your own from your desktop as well.
Is it just a regular video that goes through, or can you go jump from spot to spot and room to room?
No, it's spot to spot. It's a 3D walkthrough camera. It's
Okay. Yeah, what the guy that I used, he's got, it's Matterport is the company, and and that thing is unbelievable what it'll produce. You know, the walkthrough, it creates the dollhouse image, so it's basically the house without the roof.
Yep.
And it'll draw your floor plan to within about a 2% accuracy rate. And I happen to have a weird house that I want to sell, that the only way you can understand the house is to do something like that.
Sam, did you, you had that property that you rehabbed out in Dayton, and then you were offering terms on it. What's happening with that?
Just closed today, actually. I got a decent offer on it with conventional financing.
Oh, so you didn't even have to, so you got a price that you could live with, and you didn't have to carry it or lease option it or anything?
Yeah. I dropped the price. I actually got a couple offers within a couple days, and I got some low ball offers that I rejected.
Right.
I've definitely been seeing people out shopping with cash and just low balling as hard as they can to where it's like offensive. But you know.
But
That's how
well,
it is.
also you being a home investors guy, I mean, you kind of know all the sides of that. You're a mortgage guy and realtor, and but you're still doing your home investors franchise, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm not a realtor. I'm not a licensed realtor.
Oh, you're not? I'm sorry. I thought you were.
Nope.
I thought you wore all the hats. So what are you seeing just from, you know, the patterns that's happening with home investors and the conversion rates and all that?
I mean, we're still, I mean, personally, I'm being cautious. I'm not taking on as much inventory. I'm wholesaling more and assigning.
Mm-hmm.
But I have some inventory now, and you know, out of like 1 every 5, 1 every 10 homes I buy is a home run, and so I'm kind of just holding out for those.
Right.
But a lot of my investors, my buyers, are still buying. Some are buying deeper than others, but I haven't had any problem moving anything. I don't think the prices are going to slump that much because I think inventory is going to dry up a bit. Everyone's going to kind of pull back on listing their home, and I don't know. If you can't afford a mortgage, you're not going to get one, but there's still plenty of people that are going to be able to qualify and that have savings, and sounds like we're getting ready to go back to work here soon. So
Well, we can only hope. I mean, my friend had to go over to California to golf today with his friends because we still can't golf, you know, because getting out and doing the healthy things, that's not good. The things that keep you sane, you can't do those. Stay inside and go nuts. But anyway, just my little bias coming out.
Who would have thought, Dawn, you'd have to go to California to be more free?
Like, something is wrong with this picture. I am
You're going to California to be more free. What the hell is this world coming to?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that was the head tipper. But Well, Abby, since you're on, and did I, Megan, that buynevada.com/blog, did I get that right for your website?
I don't know. Are you sharing the screen somewhere?
No, well, I messaged it to everybody.
Oh, you
Did
messaged.
it
I didn't
come
realize
with
there was a message.
See if it actually worked.
Hold on. Let me find.
Everyone publicly. I just want to make sure, since you had said that, I want to make sure if that was correct.
All right.
Dawn,
where's
you
it?
mean you messaged everyone on Zoom?
Because I don't
did?
see it on here. I'll put it on there.
You talking about the chat? The chat feature?
Oh, maybe the chat or something?
There's a chat feature where we can all communicate.
Yeah. the
Here, I'll
chat.
post it on there.
Okay.
Hey,
All
and if you look at my blog post, I go in spurts, just FYI. So I've been home. I've been blogging. Go back to being super busy, and it goes quiet. But I put the market reports in some of the, or I put the real estate directives in regards to sales, but I put a link on there to all of the directives. And if it would be helpful, I'll post the directives about rentals too.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for that.
Welcome.
Abby,
Hi.
talk to me. What's happening? You master note broker.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, you know, based on what I am hearing, you know, and the, you know, the words that were spoken prior, you know, the wait and see, we're seeing a lot of the wait and see. You know, we have, and, you know, there's I feel like I'm standing in a, you know, in standing still, and all around me, everything is transforming. You know, if I turn my head this way, I turn back this way, and it's changed. And it's happening in the sense where we have investors entering the space salivating. We have investors running for the space, running for the exit doors, sellers trying to enter the market, sellers trying to exit the market. And once we jump through all of these hoops of putting together proposals, evaluating portfolios, chopping up terms on notes, making all of the calculations, we hear wait and see. That is a big part of it. Now, I will say, we've never been busier, and we are doing very well. I mean, you know, we're closing deals. We're seeing some delays. We're seeing some investors pull out, but I mean, we're actually hiring. You know, so it's to the point now where things are changing very quickly, and we're trying to position ourselves and read the terrain to see where we're at. And, you know, Dan Malcolm is on the call here. Dan is with First National Bank of America, and we do a lot of business together. I mean, I'm sure Dan can kind of chime in here, but we're sending them, as Sam had mentioned, we're not holding a lot of notes for purchase. We are wholesaling a lot of the assets. With regards to our own portfolio, I mean, really, we're not seeing a whole hell of a lot of defaults. We got 2 right now. So it may be becoming more frequent, but we've been fairly fortunate. In the distance, I see all the turmoil, all of the change happening. Just recently, this, you know, is getting closer to our front door by way of capital and institutional capital drying up. But with that, 2 new private investors come out of the woodwork that you find to be there's a ton of overlap. So there's a lot of opportunity there. And it really, you know, it's dependent on how soon we get back to business, what back to business is going to look like. Is, you know, we just got extended another 30 days here in California. So the real assessment, I feel, will occur when we actually come out of our houses and assess the damage and start seeing corporate bankruptcies, corporate defaults, individual bankruptcies, individual defaults. We'll start seeing the damage and assessing. And at that point, that would be at least the first step to receiving a true litmus test of what the H is happening here.
Yeah. Yeah. Good thoughts. Dan, can you unmute and just you guys chat a little bit in front of us? Then we'll be voyeurs. Because are you still doing a lot of business with Fnac?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Because I know, they were the first ones to say, hey, we're not buying in these states. And 23% of our portfolio is going to have trouble based on this because they have all years worth of statistical data.
Yeah. We're doing a lot of business with Dan. It seems like maybe having a little bit of a sound issue.
Because I can't see where to let him in or make him a co-host or anything. Can't see that part. There he is. Make co-host. I don't know if that helps him.
How about now, Dan? Nope. But yes,
Okay.
we are still doing a lot of business with First National. They were one of the first, the largest, the gold standard in the seller financed note community to trim the fat on, their criteria, start canceling out states that they're going to do business in. And many, many others have followed suit. So right now we're using a lot of more expensive private capital, and we are
it just translates into deeper discounts.
Deeper
More
discounts.
expensive capital, deeper discounts.
I beg your pardon. Exactly. More expensive capital, deeper discounts. But then you contend with the seller. Oh, I got this quote back in January, 93 cents on the dollar. What do you mean it's changed? And then you got to go into the whole spiel that the capital markets have locked up. The landscape has changed. Non-QM, hard money, fix and flip. Non-QM basically disappeared overnight. No one's really talking about that. And if they are, I'm not seeing much, but they basically disappeared overnight. Hard money, fix and flip loans. These loans would sell to like Pier Street or Torok or Alpha Flow for par, 102 cents on the dollar. They're now trading at 70, 65 cents. And some are accepting, and it's just going to. My recommendation is if any seller who's selling a note, do not wait. Sell now, because when the assessment occurs and the real pain starts, that's when you're going to see 50 cent on the dollar offers. That's just my humble opinion.
Yeah, and for me, I have my few privates that have been with me for a while. I don't have a huge operation, but most of them were at the wait and see, or hey, once we're out, I'm going to sit tight, and so there's a lot of things that kind of slowed down. But even on my small scale, I also had another couple of new people come in and say, hey, we're accredited investors and we're actually interested in adding to our portfolio, and we wouldn't mind owning the property because our main goal or our main model is owning property, and they already have that factored in for some reason. So it's really interesting. You got a lot out, things that are just not happening, but new things coming in. I was gonna ask you about, gosh, I forgot. Went right out of my head. What else? Abby?
We're seeing. So basically, there's a story here where we're here in the San Francisco Bay Area. Some of you guys know, and my wife and my business partner Molly also works a W-2 job here in advertising technology in the city. She was planning on going over to Airbnb. Back in October, right around the property summit in October. She friended the guy. They remained in touch. They were friends before. About 3 weeks ago, not the Sunday that just passed, 3 Sundays ago, she gets a frantic text from this guy. Are you guys hiring? This is Mr. Airbnb. Why?
Oh, wow.
She said, the executive team is going crazy. We are this close to folding and going out of business. It blew my mind. I couldn't believe this. That was Sunday night. Monday morning, a CNBC article came out and said Airbnb is 12 months away from, folding, going under. That Monday night, we get a same call from the same gentleman who said, that's not true. It's actually 6 months or 7 months. Now, That has huge implications. I know there's a lot of folks on this call that may use short-term rentals, and I know this may not be, yeah, and there's other options, and I'm not trying to propagate fear. My point is that we need to be very aware of the landscape and the opportunity that would come. For instance, if this occurs, this will trigger and cause a chain reaction of defaults across the real estate industry and the market in general, specifically areas that are heavy in short-term rentals. I feel what we're going to see is a short-term rental bust, if you would. Those that are highly leveraged and, you know, those Airbnb model folks that are highly leveraged are going to have issues potentially. They're going to need to quickly pivot to long-term rentals. Then when you're going to start seeing rentals come on the market, then we're going to start seeing fire sales, and then we're going to start seeing foreclosures on this side. And then on this side, you're talking about commercial, retail space. What's going to happen here? So what's being predicted is the mortgage loan bust in the commercial side, and then the slew of foreclosures that are soon to follow. And I don't even know, I try to rack my brain here on, you know, what kind of opportunity, because there's going to be a ton, would come on the commercial side. And, you know, the first thing that kind of dawns on me is the warehouse. I think commercial warehouse space, specifically in urban and suburban areas, are going to be pivotal because of this explosion of Amazon and fulfillment centers, that kind of thing. So I know there's going to be a lot of opportunity with commercial warehouse space, if you get it, or industrial in certain areas, specifically urban and suburban, and maybe even rural areas. I know that's going to be huge, or at least an opportunity to look for. The only other thing I can think of is innovation on how retail space in strip malls is utilized in the future. Out of 2008, we had Uber, Airbnb, and all the other, you know, innovations. What's this going to bring? This crisis, what kind of opportunities is it going to bring? And I think there should be, or will be, a renaissance, hopefully, I'm hopeful for this, in commercial retail space utilization, which will be, wouldn't leave that market in the dust. So those are my thoughts, you know. And then, of course, you have the owner-occupied single-family residential side. And I feel that that's going to be a minute. You know, I would say if there is going to be anything, there may be part of that chain reaction that comes from the short-term rental defaults that may leak into that residential side. Landlords having to go through foreclosure because they had Airbnb. They're paying on their mortgage on their owner-occupied property. Now their Airbnb business fell apart, or whatever the case may be. Then you have defaults that way, not to mention the joblessness. And, you know, so there's a huge amount of risk in our, you know, before us, but there's also a huge amount of opportunity and reward that I think a lot in this call will have the foresight to exploit and take opportunity on.
Yeah, it's just like following that thread. It's like you got to walk through the eye of the storm and somehow navigate, like, you know, which things feel right to me. And I'm after I spent the other day, I spent I don't know, half an hour on I really detest Facebook, but I was on Facebook on the group that was the Airbnb hosts, because we have about four units that we do it with. Luckily though, when I bought, I go, this is a great thing, but I'm not counting on it. So I have very low leverage, small amount of leverage. So, cause I wanted to go, okay, this is going to be a great Airbnb, and they have been. But if that falls apart, will it carry itself as a regular rental?
Right.
Will it, could I own or carry out of it?
Right.
But anyway, so I'm okay, thankfully, because the duplex still pretty much cranking, to tell you the truth, because people who have to come to town, they can't go to a hotel right now.
Yeah.
So we've still got some of them really going.
And I'll throw out like your duplex. Right now, rentals are going like crazy still. I mean, it's unbelievable that anything that goes up is gone. And I think about like your duplex, that's going to be prime kind of place that people are going to continue to look for.
You know, I want to add, if you don't mind, you know, I don't want this to be gloom and doom, because it's not. I mean, we got to read the terrain and be adults about what's really happening around us. That being said, do you really think that if Airbnb goes under, I think it's more of a management style going under. There's still, just like Yahoo went under. What happened? A new owner came in, Yahoo Mail is still there, you know, Yahoo Finance and Yahoo News is still there. The Airbnb technology is groundbreaking. It changed the way that we transact in the hospitality industry, for real. So that won't go by the wayside. It just will be a scare. Everyone's going to run for the door. If they, as you had mentioned, hang in there, you know, it's not going anywhere, and there's going to be alternatives, but someone would come in, either they can actually have investors just come in and prop them up. I mean, for all we know, is what they're doing now. You know, I don't think, but I'm saying if that happens, or if that news continues to perpetuate, you're going to see a rush for the door, and that's going to trigger defaults, opportunity, you know, hurt, you know, bank accounts, and, you know, not so hurt bank accounts. So it's going to trigger a whole slew of things.
Right. And
Yeah, I mean,
like what I was referencing is long-term rentals going like crazy.
For sure.
Not the short term. So the ability to convert from the
Right.
short term to the long term might be a savior for people. But you had just said, I think you hit it right on, and that's why I wanted to chime in about that long term are still going like crazy. So people can hold in there and switch to that option.
Right.
Yeah, it's all
Might be
about
okay.
how, you know, you made your deal when you bought it.
Right.
If you bought it when there's only one exit strategy, you're kind of not doing so well. And, you know, like for me, I always said, you know, we got out of Dodge, out of LA 6 years ago. And I go, I'm building refuge. And so like for me, my short-term rentals were like, okay, I've got a fully furnished rental. So if things get weird, like they are now, I can absorb my tribe. They don't have to live in my living room or my backyard. I've got furnished places for people to go. And actually, you know, I've got my oldest daughter just this last week came to live with me. And my brother's daughter is coming up in a week and a half. So like it is, the tribe is sort of doing what I thought it would. But like when I was on that Facebook site, like some guy was going, wow, my overhead is $35,000 a month. I'm losing everything. And we're all going, what are you thinking? You know, so that's someone who just goes, I'm making this $500 or $1,000 margin, but they've got all this overhead. And if one little hiccup happens like this, you know, boom, they're out.
That's right.
And so I don't know. I also pulled some lists for some, even though I don't like really higher end properties, but I really have one right now where the loan mods from 2009 and 10, I'm pulling those lists because I bet there's a bunch of really awesome loan mods. I wouldn't mind taking over, you know, a property that's on the higher end if it's got this awesome loan mod, especially if it's fully furnished, because I have a lot of ways I can make that one work. So, God, and then there's an attorney that we were just talking yesterday. He and I did a deal. A client of his bought a note out of our portfolio. And thank God they just sold it before this whole thing. You know, we had the guy default after 4 or 5 years of perfect payment history. We sell this out of portfolio, and then within a year, it starts having trouble, and she just was able to sell it out. It was against the mobile home park. Not in the greatest area, you know? So, but anyway, he and I were talking, and he goes, Don, you got to help me with this guy. He's so desperate to sell his property. This was a guy down in Laguna Niguel, so a pretty upscale part of Southern California. And he's like, he's got an offer from a guy who's it's like a 1.1 million sales price. And he's like chasing this buyer going, please, please, please. And they go, okay, so what is he offering? Oh, 10% down. And, you know, and I'm going, okay, look, the mortgage would be 900 and something, right? $5,000 a month P&I, even at 4 or 5%. And I go, that guy could quit paying, and in 18 months, he's already made over 100,000 back, and you're never going to get him out of there. But it's so interesting. Like, some people are just waiting and seeing. Some sellers are getting crazy and going, please help me put this deal together, and I want to beg this buyer to come in. 10% down on a 1-1 is so easy to lose that money so quick. And I go, let's just restructure it as some sort of lease option and get a better buyer. Or at least, because if he has to foreclose, he makes the sale, then the taxes in California go way up. He loses his low tax basis. So then by the time he gets it back, he's not only lost money, but now his property taxes are a hell of a lot higher. So I don't know, just weird stuff going on. But it is really interesting. I mean, I don't know, I have a feeling that there's just a lot of things that are changing. It's not going to be just about rearranging what we're used to. I think we're going to completely new paradigms. So we're in this really awkward space of how do we deal with what's really happening now, but how do we create that bridge to the vision of something's future? Because I don't know if anyone's heard of Gesara type things, but there is, some whisperings of global resets, currency resets, debt forgiveness, a whole new sort of way of thinking about money and using money. So it's just always in the back of my mind, just saying, you know what, we're going to do the best we can. And at the end of the day, if the happiest thing does happen and there's planetary liberation, I'm not really going to worry about this investment or that investment, but there's technology. I mean, there's technologies that are getting released too that are blowing my mind. Just a little bit that I can. So if we just get a steady stream of technologies that are being released, a whole lot of things could change overnight. And so I don't know. So me, I feel a little bit like, like, wow, like we're really dealing with a lot. And sometimes I don't know if it's my own tiredness or psychically I'm taking on a lot of things. I feel like I'm doing a lot of meditating, a lot of clearing of energies, of thought patterns, of just random anxiety at times, things like that. Do you relate at all? I mean, I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of work happening on some other dimension that I sort of am tapping into. But
I second that.
Yeah. So it's just about, man, just getting back to the basics. Like every morning, yoga, meditation, do a little reading, some uplifting thing, make sure I get out in nature a little bit, here. Gosh, my daughter came from, a metropolis where you basically don't let you out of your apartment, and she's going absolute ballistic, and I can walk out and nobody cares, I mean, I can get my sanity.
I say that if I may speak to your point about changing the paradigm of the way we look at currency, there's nothing controversial about this because it's everywhere. We're not, the first thing you need to do, as someone had mentioned, don't panic. I would add, turn off the television. That would be my second recommendation. Yeah. Because the panic comes from the television, just FYI. That being said, it's everywhere. I mean, if you look at, there is a book I just recently got into, is How to Invest in Gold and Silver. It was by an author named Mike Maloney. And this guy Maloney claims that he wrote this best-selling book because he read the Federal Reserve's website in 2003 and listened to a speech that Bernanke gave. And in the book, he wrote it, and the speech was in 2003. He wrote the book in 2005, 06. It went on to be prophetic, as they call it, like he saw into the future. He goes, I didn't see into the future. I just read the Fed's website. And it's nothing controversial. If you just know where to look, you'll see that they are changing the way I think everyone could agree that none of this feels right. Let me rephrase. For me, this doesn't feel right. It never felt right to close the world down, for something like this, which is terrible. I'm not saying it's, nothing like that, but it doesn't make sense. But what the only thing that I'm seeing change is the way we transact, the economy, the economic thing that's going on. No one's talking about that the Federal Reserve pretty much handed power back to the Treasury Department in the CARES Act legally. The Federal Reserve not steering the ship anymore. No one is talking about this. We actually reverted back to what our Constitution said that the U.S. Treasury should be doing. This is a monumentous thing that happened and no one's talking about. It's like when the Patriot Act came about, they started, you know, changing things that we didn't really understand. There's going to be a multitude of things that are going to come to light in the next 5 years that are going to affect the way we view money, how we store value. And I think, Dawn, you hit it right on the head.
Yeah, thanks for that. And I think I sent to everyone Out of Shadows official, really highly recommend documentary. It's kind of a on the red pill side, a little more kind and gentle, but it still doesn't really step away from it really just shows how the media, you know, when we got Operation Paperclip at the end of World War II, we actually did just bring the Nazi guys over here and paint them up, put lipstick on them, and
call them Americans.
And then, you know, Mockingbird media, the whole thing, basically their goal is they've, you know, taken MK Ultra and some of those mind control techniques that used to be sort of isolated and just transmuted that to, you know, what they're doing with the mainstream media. And it's a pretty interesting, eye-opening thing, even if you know, think that idea sounds really crazy, you know, just watch it and just go, I don't buy it. But, you know, it's really interesting to at least consider that the narrative that we're being told is, it's not what it seems.
I'd say 50% of it is BS. At least 50% is BS. And I also think there should be a holiday called the national holiday. Wait, how do we say it? The apologize to your local conspiracy theorist day. That's what we should do.
Yeah.
Anyone who says, "Oh, he's a conspiracy theorist," we've been hearing him. I mean, I'm always, you know, got my feelers out there for different information. I'm not going to say that I'm, you know, living behind sandbags, but. I mean, it literally is eye-opening, just like you said. You know, there's something not organic about the way this is happening. It feels rushed. It feels haphazard. There's obvious confusion being sown or lack of oversight when you were just talking about, you know, well, we can't go out to golf, or we were just saying, how people heard the governor's order and now they think they don't have to pay their mortgage or their rent. Well, if there was oversight and if you thought about this, it's almost as if I keep saying they, but it's almost as if there's something out there trying to bottleneck the global economy and shave off independent wealth, to bottleneck the people, take that independent wealth away from them, their independent income streams, and bottleneck it towards a centralized origin. I don't know. I don't want to say government. I don't know. I'm not trying, but that's not a theory. That's what's happening around us. You know what I mean? So it just doesn't make any sense. And if the governor of Nevada or whatever would say, hey guys, look, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't pay your rent. You should speak to your landlord. We're just talking about Freddie and Fannie loans, you know what I mean? FHA loans. Like, they don't make that distinction. And it's almost as if they're creating the panic right in front of our eyes.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And on the flip side, this same scenario is allowing other things to be, other operations, if you will, to be able to, everyone wakes up and says, hey, something's not working. You know, something's wrong with our system. More people asking questions, more people at home, you know, whatever.
Yeah. That's very, very,
you know,
very deep.
Yeah. So anyway, so here we're at an hour in. I'm not great at following chats, but does anyone have like a certain question that they want? I think, you know, we'll, if there's a couple of people that want to say, hey, what do you think I should do, or blah blah. Let's talk about your deal right now while we're all here together. If not, we'll just sort of let you go for the evening, because I know it's kind of late on the East Coast.
I have to
But
jump off,
it's-
Dawn.
Okay. Thank
yeah,
you so much.
so
Megan.
if you
We'll
need
catch up
anything,
soon.
yeah.
Yeah, we're overdue to catch up, but it's just so weird right now. But
Right,
but yeah.
because this little thing going on called quarantine. So,
Yeah.
All
but
right,
yeah,
thank you.
just if anything comes up that I can help with, feel free to text me or email me. But thank you, and for everybody's
right.
contribution. It's good to hear from the outside world. So,
Yeah.
Talk to you soon.
All right, take care, Megan.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
bye.
Hey, Abby, can you do me a favor?
Yeah.
That
Leave.
little
You want me to leave?
that picture behind you is crooked. Can you fix that picture behind
Are
you?
you being serious or making fun of me? Are you making fun
It's
of me?
just like I can't quit looking at it. I can't quit looking
Are you
at it.
making
I
fun of
mean,
me? Or
it's the
I can't stand it either. I thought you were joking. This one, it's driving me crazy. I kept so happy. This one.
No, the sunflower, dude.
Oh.
How
How about this?
Shoot.
How's that?
Yeah.
Oh man. I want to. I don't want to dominate the conversation here, but I'm surprised that no one has any questions about strategy. Has anyone talked about strategy or anything to add on strategy? Because I have a lot of thoughts here. I don't know if I want to kind of throw it out.
I went over before you. I think you could get on, Megan and I was talking with Megan about the things that I'm doing, but yeah, go ahead. Why don't you? And I don't see anyone chatting in anything. So.
Yeah, this
strategy.
Please.
I mean, the basic strategy that I'm hearing is just stack your cash, right? Just like cash is going to be king in a couple months. I mean, that's all I'm hearing.
Amen.
Again, where to deploy the cash, I have no idea. We're not quite there where the best sector is, like you were saying. I know I'm not going to be buying commercial office buildings.
Right.
But yeah, I think it would be a safe thing to have as much cash, funding, financing, lines of credit, whatever, open to you. Going into this, I wasn't a big investor in 08. I bought my first piece of real estate in the end of 08. So I didn't capitalize on that, but I think there's going to be millionaires to be made out of this. And it's all about where, how, when. I don't think we're there yet, though. Obviously, we haven't seen any collapses. We don't know what the biggest hit is, but yeah, cash is going to be king. I mean, what are people doing right now? All they're doing is spending their cash. I mean, maybe they're not paying their mortgage or their rent, but they're not making much. So if people didn't have a lot of savings, they're not going to have much now. And the ones that do have cash and the ones that can weather the storm are going to be able to call the shots, I think. That's
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. That's absolutely right. And someone had mentioned, looks like Chuck had mentioned strategies will come in a few months. I also agree with that because, as you said, Sam, we don't know where things are going. You can surmise or plan all the live long day, but if you got to read the data, you got to see what's happening around you. But cash, IRA cash, physical cash, I even suggest if people hold cash in one area, I would recommend, and some people may already do this, to spread that cash around. Maybe not necessarily over multiple institutions. I would consider moving some cash into a brokerage account just in case. There is something called bail-ins, so you want to be cautious about keeping your cash in banks. Dan, no offense. But, seriously, there's just to be smart with it. Yes.
why should we be cautious about keeping cash in the bank?
So there's something called bail-ins, right? So in the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform Act, if I'm not mistaken, someone can fact check me on that, but one of the pieces of legislation, I believe it was Dodd-Frank that was rolled out, stated in that, 14,000 page legislation or whatever it was,
Right.
there will never, ever, ever be bailouts again. We're never going to do it. That's what the government told the banks. They said, okay, no problem. Well, we're going to do something called bail-ins, where we plunder the accounts of our customers. Because once you put the $100 bill into an ATM, guess what? It's not your $100 bill anymore. It's not. You can redeem that $100 bill. So, they physically and technically have the legal standing to raid accounts, account holders, cash, and say, sorry, had to do it because we needed to get solvent. Whatever the case. Now, if any time in history shows that precautions should be taken, it's definitely now, because this is not the difference between this and 2008 and even the Great Depression was it wasn't in unison with the globe. What is happening now is happening in unison with the globe. This has never happened in our recorded history, if I'm not mistaken, to this extent. So, and when you have massive ownership of the few who own a lot of corporations' assets and holdings at the top, they have the ability to easily shuffle those holdings around legally. And, I'm not to get too off topic, bail-ins is a thing. It's a real thing, and we should be cautious.
Yeah, it's basically how they can say, look, sorry, you can't get your cash out, but we'll give you equity. You're now a partner. You have a share in our business, something like that. I want to say that's what it is.
I didn't know
we're
that.
Not just stealing from you, but you're going to get equity in our institution, and depending on how we do, that's how much you get paid out. I mean,
I did not know that.
Didn't that happen? Yeah, something like, I want to say that's what I remembered.
Right. Either way,
general, but
you're not going to have access to your cash, not by your decision, not by your, choice. So it's definitely
turn that on like with a flip of a switch.
With a flick of the switch, like they don't have to give you a heads up.
They don't.
So just it's something TD Ameritrade is a place that we it's not by design. It's just I play around in stocks, so there's definitely brokerage firms, Edward Jones or whatever the other brokerage firms are. You can use money there, and they would be considered non-banks. There's also places where you can park your money in, I'm a big fan of distributed ledger technology, which is like cryptographic currency or crypto. And there's a company called BlockFi that has Fidelity as an investment partner. The Thiel Corp, Peter Thiel, the investor, he was one of the first outside investors in Facebook and one of the first outside investors in PayPal with Musk. He's a backer. You can park your cash at BlockFi. It's licensed in every way except it's not FDIC insured. But you can park your cash there and earn 8% on your money. You can also park your crypto there and earn less. But there's places that your cash is safe.
Hey, Abby, why don't you type that into the group chat? Because I actually haven't heard that one.
Yeah, let me look it up.
People that have,
really think the big banks are going to go insolvent?
Go ahead. Sorry?
Do you really think the big banks are going to go insolvent after this?
I mean, don't you? I don't think they're going to go insolvent. I think there's only 4 right now. Oh, hold on, I think I just lost. There's 4 right now that are, controlling the scene. What? Chase, Wells, Citi, and B of A. I think that it's a very good chance that if there's going to be a massive disruption in our big box banks, and that may be better for credit unions and small community banks. I don't know. I don't know enough about that to comment, but what I will tell you is that there's definitely changes in the banking industry that are coming down the line, and one of them is creating a digital currency. So they just hired Brian Brooks, the chief legal officer of
Finance.
cryptocurrency exchange in the United States. He was the CLO. He went through all of the red tape, just created something called a stable coin called the USDC for Coinbase. He was just hired as the deputy comptroller of the United States of America, now in control of the entire banking system. Him and Mnuchin and the actual comptroller all worked at a bank together back in, you know, the early 2010s. So why would they bring him on if they weren't converting this to a digital currency? Not to mention, I actually read the first 246 pages of the 896-page CARE Act. I got 246 pages in before I went brain dead. But I will tell you that one of the chapters, the original chapter or the original draft, had a whole chapter called Digital Dollar. And they were rolling out, that was supposed to be originally part of the CARE Act, and for whatever reason, they took it out of the finished product. So there's definitely change on the way with this technology. The difference is that the digital dollar, or they're thinking about calling it the Fed coin, like Federal Reserve coin, is a centralized distributed ledger. So it's a open source ledger only open to a centralized power like the Federal Reserve, whereas cryptocurrency like Ethereum and blockchain are completely decentralized, where no one authority holds sway, which makes it, you know, locks it cryptographically and secures it. So I'm not saying that's a perfect system. I'm just saying that I believe that cryptocurrency means freedom and digital currency equals the opposite of freedom. And I think that's where we're going. And if that's the case, imagine you have a digital dollar, you're getting your tax return. Well, now all the Treasury has to do is send you to your hardware wallet, which is where you store, or a software wallet is where you store your cryptocurrency or your digital dollars. It just sends it there. It doesn't need a bank anymore to transact for you. What happens to banks, Sam, at that point? They become less and less relevant over the next 5 years. So it may not be a crash, but we're hearing about debt forgiveness. Well, that's not good for banks. We're hearing about a digital dollar. Well, that's not good for banks. This is what I see. I'm not saying that it's going to be tomorrow, but I think that there's definitely going to be change. And then to my point earlier, if you actually read what the Federal Reserve's plans are right on their website, they talk about competing with China with a digital currency by 2025, having it in full effect. So that's a pretty good indication of where we're going. What that means for banks, I'm not sure. But you also hear right now, there's a fight going on where the Treasury is trying to basically recalibrate all of the financial power into fintech or financial technology companies away from Wall Street. You got to forgive me. I don't recall the name of the agency in New York that oversees this, but they keep blocking the Treasury to allow fintech to be the new central hub, which is the West Coast. And so there's major changes that are happening in the banking industry. And I definitely think that some of these banks may not survive and they may exercise the option to bail in.
Yeah, and then someone is just going, like, well, where do you put your money? It's really tough. I mean, you were speaking to just diversifying. I mean, you know, when we're heavy in notes and real estate, obviously, but like, you know, cryptocurrency, we park some money there, gold and silver. It's funny, you know what? This not too long ago when silver dropped down like to $12, spot price of silver, I'm going, oh gosh, gotta go get a bunch. But guess what? They made the premium so high you couldn't even get it, or it was really like, you know, it was an $8 an ounce premium. Yeah. Because they didn't want to get rid of it. And, you know, like one guy that's just works on these job sites over here, he's like an excavator, you know, he's a grubby little guy that runs his big equipment. He gets his money. All he's done, I think he's, all he ever did was just buy silver. He's got probably $500,000 in silver, physical silver somewhere. But then, you know, that's another. So no matter what, you have a risk and a reward either way, because someone can steal your physical stuff or an earthquake can swallow it up. I mean, you know, so to me, it's about diversity, and mainly the most important thing we have is here, you know, between our ears, our hearts, our guidance, our, you know, humanity working together when, you know, as things kind of unroll, like for us and our family, it's just like, okay, some people have their same income and some don't. So how are we balancing you know, just surviving. Okay, you're a little light on cash, but here's some things that the whole family system needs. And so just in our microcosm, we're just balancing the human capital that we have.
That's right.
And then we're also just, you know, we've always been this way, but we're just adding to our own food security. Like our greenhouse is amazing right now. And we're building coops for quail. We're going to be raising some quail for the little eggs. And I don't know, I might have to, I don't know if I can quite eat one. I'd have to kill it. That would be horrible.
I wouldn't be good at that.
But, you know, so not that I'm not freaking out, but it's just like seeing the writing on the wall, and it's more healthy to be closer to your food source anyway, you know? So it's not like it's a healthier thing to be just more earthy, simple.
The silver linings.
Yep. Yep. So
there was a question I don't know if anyone knows the answer to that this gentleman Drew had asked. He said, you know, if the bail-ins happen, does that mean FDIC wouldn't cover that? That doesn't make sense, right? I would imagine the FDIC wouldn't do that. I'm speculating, of course. What do you think, Dawn?
Oh, I don't think any promises of
I know.
FDIC means a hill or nothing. It's
Gotcha.
like, to me. But yeah, so I don't know. But to me, the first time a few weeks ago when that whole thing happened with their nationalizing the Fed, I go, it's happening. It's the end of the Fed. And either that's really distressing because we have so much uncertainty, but on the other hand, God, I don't even know if you could, I guess it could be worse, but I guess I don't. Having studied a lot of things for a lot of years, I actually think we're heading to, like I said, I've always said, we're just going through a really nasty remodel. Like we're in this house and it's like remodeling both bathrooms in your kitchen at the same time. And at the end of it, it's going to be a lot better, probably pretty painful and disruptive and a little bit of crazy making in the meantime. So, but I don't know.
Well, I think Abby came up with the word for the day.
What's that?
Haphazard.
Yeah.
I think that's an absolute description of everything that's going on right now.
That's a good, you're damn right. Yeah. May I ask you, Dave, you're in Reno, right? So when you were talking about these apartments and these people, 35%, just
I'm in Tahoe.
Tahoe, excuse me, in Tahoe. So, you know, do you think, or what are your thoughts there on the future of the market? I know that, you know, a lot of people in the Bay Area, myself included, I believe there's a couple of my neighbors here on the call right now. We would be real interested to know what your thoughts are on the Tahoe, you know, rental market. What do you think this means in the coming months and year here?
Purely a gut feeling is that, you know, casinos are not going to go out of business. And so there is going to be the employment base is going to come back slowly but surely. The tourism industry, Tahoe is a limited supply.
Right.
And, you know, California's still growing. You know, 10% unemployment means you have 90% employment.
Right.
There is still so much money in the Bay Area. You know, Apple isn't laying off people.
Right.
Et cetera. Just, I know the small startups are having problems.
Sure.
So, you know, I think the money's there to buy the property here and basically get the economy going here again.
Gotcha.
And my guess is it'll happen fairly rapidly. It just depends on what kind of distancing requirements, you know, the state puts in and so on. And I mean, South Lake, give you an example, South Lake Tahoe has 3,000 government employees in a town of 22,000.
That's crazy.
Well, we've got school. Think about it. We have schools, we have a community college, we have counties, we have courts, we have a city, we have the United States Forest Service, the Highway Patrol, the Water Control Board that controls the entire Eastern Sierra. And so there's actually a huge base population here. And then we have the transient population that has all of the service jobs.
Gotcha.
You know, Heavenly has 1,300 employees while they're operating, and then they all go back to New Zealand.
Right.
Right. I've always described Tahoe as about 8,000 locals and 15,000 or so people that rotate through uniforms. You know, they rotate through casino uniforms and heavenly uniforms and so on. You recognize the uniform but not the person. And here, you know, when you get a non-payer on rent and they say, I'm leaving town, your lease means nothing. You're not going to chase them to LA and try and, I've got a drawer full of judgments.
Right. Gotcha.
Yeah, as opposed to a town where people just move, you know, they get a job, but they're still in the same town.
Right.
That doesn't happen here.
Right.
So we have our transient nature.
Hey,
Gotcha.
Dave, speaking to the casinos coming back, I was told that Lakeside,
Lakeside Inn,
have-
totally closed.
yeah,
And
not coming
which-
back. But you think most of them will?
Oh yeah, well, you know, I mean, two of them are owned by, you know, basically, well, Caesars has two of them, Harrah's and Harvey's, and they're buying out the company that owns Mont Bleu, so that's going to get sold to somebody else because otherwise they'd own 3 out of 4. And
Right.
then the Hard Rock, I'm not sure who owns that one. And you know, so they'll come back leaner. And I think, you know, just go into the hand sanitizer business. But, you know, I mean, it's sort of like, I think the day that the cruise ships open up, every cruise ship in the Caribbean that caters to a young population is going to be just jammed with people getting drunk.
Yeah.
But people my age are going to be much more cautious about going out.
Yeah.
So I think
Right.
things aimed at seniors are going to be a slower recovery. I hate to call myself a senior,
It's a shame.
but I do get discounted coffee at McDonald's. But I think you're going to find a certain population that's really going to somewhat change their behavior as far as group
Right.
settings and so on. And there's another part of it, you know, that is just going to say, oh, the hell with it. And, you know, that's the American way. 18 months from now, we'll forget everything.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just kind of my gut feeling, and that's all it can be based on.
Yeah. No, that's it. Yeah. Sorry about that.
All right. Well, I really appreciate you guys being on the call. It's really good to just hang out with people and talk about things. Abby, thank you so much for that. David,
Thank you.
Megan's gone. Dan, nice to see your face.
Dan.
Sam, thank you very much. Appreciate it very much. And everyone who was on here. I hope I really enjoyed it. I hope it was of value for spending an hour and a half of your evening with us. So,
Always a pleasure.
Until next time, take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank you, everybody.